Hey everybody, how's it going? Just want to show today 6 overlooked 60s masterpieces that when you're out crate digging, if you don't already have these albums, I would strongly recommend that you pick them up. They're fantastic. And I don't just mean that as hyperbole. I really mean these albums are excellent. If you see them out there, grab them. I don't think they're going to be too expensive if you do find them, but it would be well worth your while, and you will be happy that you have them as part of your collection. First album, The Notorious Byrd Brothers by the Byrds. This was their fifth studio album. David Crosby left the band during the recording of this album because he and Jim McGuinn, or Roger McGuinn, were not able to reconcile their artistic differences, which is kind of a mild way of putting it. But nonetheless, there's a couple of David Crosby compositions on here. But this is a great transition between kind of the jangly pop, psychedelic rock into the country rock that they would definitely popularize on their next album, Sweetheart of the Rodeo. But down to a trio, I think that this actually is a remarkable album considering all the acrimony that was part of producing the album. It starts off with Artificial Energy, which is kind of a bombastic, horn-laden, psychedelic rock track. I know it sounds weird, but it works. It's great. It's a nice way to kick off the album. Going Back, which is a Carole King composition that they cover, just kind of like a breezy, country tinged kind of a track, a bit mellow. Draft Morning was a David Crosby composition. Definitely a protest song against the Vietnam War. You've got Wasn't Born to Follow, which I believe was in the Easy Rider soundtrack. But that is definitely a bit of psychedelia mixed with a little bit, I want to call it harder rock. But it's just the Byrds had that great hybrid between the country rock and a bit of psychedelic, in some cases a bit of acid rock. I use that term very loosely on here. Tribal Gathering, Dolphin, Smile, Space Odyssey is a great way to close the album, but it's a great mix. There's not a bad track on this album. It's very experimental. They're kind of toying around with some of the old and some of the new country leanings that they were exploring, but excellent album. Check it out. If you haven't, you won't be disappointed. Next album I'm going to show is by the Turtles. And this album is The Turtles Present The Battle of the Bands. Now, this album reminds me a lot thematically of The Who Sell Out. It's definitely a lot of comedy, I guess I could say, that the Turtles use on this album, but not to where it's like a jokey novelty record. And I love the concept. The concept is basically, and the first track is The Battle of the Bands. It's an introduction to, I guess they're trying to set it up as if there were this concert with all these different bands and they're battling it out. But it's very clever because each track is a different style, a different genre of music. And actually in the gatefold here, they actually pose as different bands for each track on the album. They pose in like different costumes, and they have, you know, kind of silly little names for some of these bands. But I like it a lot because it's almost like the Sgt. Pepper idea where we're not the Turtles anymore, we're this band, and it allows you the freedom to kind of step outside the box and explore some different musical ideas. But this is a great, great album. You've got, like I say, The Battle of the Bands, which kind of kicks things off. It's kind of very much like a showman kind of tune, sort of there's some pomp and circumstance and just kind of introducing you to the whole idea. The last thing I remember is definitely kind of very psychedelic, bit of a psychedelic rock track. Eleanor is one of the best power pop 60s songs that you've never heard. If you haven't heard that song, basically, the Turtles' big hit was Happy Together. And as a joke, they tried to do like a backwards rewrite of Happy Together, kind of working their way backwards through that song. And they didn't mean it to be a very serious track, but it is just a great, great power pop track. Too Much Heartbreak, Too Much Heartsick Feeling is kind of a silly country track that they do. It's got the singer, and I don't know, it's one of the band members. I'm not all that up on who the Turtles are. I know there's Flo and Eddie, but as far as the other band members go, but one of them sings a song in a real low country register. It's just a scream. They do a great, all of these, they do the style so well too. They do a song, it's called Surfer Dan, and it sounds like a Jan and Dean song from the early 60s or a very early Beach Boys track. I mean, it's so convincing and they do it so well. And they're not trying to make fun of the genre, but they are having fun with each of the genres. There's a track that's called I'm Chief Kamanawanalea, haha, pun there. But it's just, yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's almost like this was their white album in that they're exploring so many different styles of music. You Showed Me, I don't know how this wasn't a hit. It should have been a #1 hit on the radio. It is kind of a breezy little pop ballad, but it works so well. One of my favorite tracks on this album, but it's just, it sounds so effortless on here. Buzzsaw is, for all intents and purposes, an instrumental track, but it's heavy. It's just, it kicks ass. And this is an album that I don't see it talked about very much. I won't say never, but I want to give it some love because I've never talked about it before. But just listening to it today, I was reminded about how great a record this is. And they don't take themselves too seriously. It's definitely tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of like I say, the Who Sell Out, where, yeah, it's great pop songs, but they're having a little fun with the concept. And this one is great. Always, trying to talk up the Beach Boys on here. And I've mentioned this. I've done an episode about this particular album. But again, I'm going to shove it in your face. The Friends album by the Beach Boys. This was pretty much after everyone had stopped listening to the Beach Boys, after the Smiley Smile album, Wild Honey, which was a very lo-fi, stripped back approach compared to Pet Sounds. And then you've got this album, which Brian Wilson says on some days it's his favorite Beach Boys album, depending on what mood he's in. But it's just a very mellow, melancholy, melodic, great harmonies, but nothing that, just took hold on the radio. People were moving on from the Beach Boys. They were considered passé. And unfortunately, a lot of people overlook this album. I don't see it very much out in the wild. I was very lucky to get a copy of this one. But like I say, I've done an episode on this, but still, if you see it, grab it. You will not be disappointed. It is just a great, relaxing, almost music to fall asleep to, because it's not overpowering, with the exception of the last track, Transcendental Meditation. But you just got some breezy late 60s pop on here. You got Friends. Wake the World is fantastic. When a Man Needs a Woman is charming. Passing By is a great cheesy 60s instrumental, but I think is great. Dennis Wilson shines with Little Bird and Be Still. Great, great album. Is it as good as Pet Sounds? No, but it is damn near close, and in my top 3 Beach Boys albums, no question. I've talked about this album before, but I cannot urge you strongly enough, if you love 60s rock, power pop, great harmonies, this album has it in spades. Unfortunately, the Zombies were not very prolific. This was their second and their last studio album. Their first one came out during the whole British invasion scene of 1964. And then it wasn't until 67 or 68 that the second album came out. And by the time it came out, they'd broken up and kind of scattered to the wind. But it's just a great, from top to bottom, the melodies on here and the harmonies really are one of the best things about this album. And they're just very inventive, and it will stick in your ear. I mean, it will, you know, it's one of those that you can't get out of your head for a while after you've played it. Care of Cell is great. A Rose for Emily is a great little ballad. Some of these sound like Ray Davies could have written them, actually. Maybe After He's Gone. Just heavenly harmonies. Beechwood Park is great. Time of the Season is the last track on here, and the track that most people know and associate with the Zombies. But again, people who know this is a great one. If you can get your hands on it, definitely do. This is a repress, which you can find for under 20 bucks, and that is a steal considering how great that album is. The last one that I want to show is giving some love to the Moody Blues. This is To Our Children's Children. And again, for the most part, this is very melancholy and a lot of mellotron on here. Just soothing vocals, great rhythms, great melodies. And nobody sounded like the Moody Blues, but it's a concept record. I think, you had the moon landing when this album came out, and it was just sort of the idea of, we've opened up a new frontier now, and future generations, are they going to learn from the lessons? I don't know. It's just it's a great album. It's an album about, kind of getting older, passing the baton to future generations, but it's got some great tracks on here. But it's not a very heavy album, unlike their next one, A Question of Balance. Higher and Higher, Eyes of a Child Part 1, Eyes of a Child Part 2, Never Thought I'd Live to Be 100, which is just kind of a gentle acoustic ballad. And then on the second side, epic tracks, Gypsy, which is one of the I guess more up-tempo tracks on here. But just, I love the instrumentation that they use with the mellotron, tastefully done keyboards, great rhythm guitar, great acoustic. It's just the whole blend of it all. It's fantastic production on here. Candle of Life is great and mellow. Watching and Waiting is such a great way. I mean, that picture right there, that's what it sounds like. Some guys sitting around the campfire, but just the Moody Blues. Can't say enough great things about the Moody Blues, but I love this record. And it just, if I'm feeling melancholy and I want something to throw on the turntable just to kind of chill out with, this is a great record to do it. So anyway, hope this video's made some sense. Hope that you get a chance to check these records out. Hope you're doing great, and take care.